dementia researcher with a blog and a rating.
Hi everybody, it's Becky Carlyle here. We're going to take a bit of a shift from my usual focus on setting up your own lab, and we're going to talk a little bit about the news that came in the last week or so. For this reason, I need to make it very clear that this article is my own personal opinion, not that of my employer, my funders, or the Dementia Researcher Organisation. The blog post is called "It Could Happen Here." I'm writing this blog post as the local election results are starting to trickle in, remembering how I felt at a party in Connecticut, USA in November 2016. I got that feeling on reading that Andrea Jenkins is the new Reform elected mayor of Greater Lincolnshire, and that she has promised a Doge Lincolnshire to cut government waste and said no to net zero madness. She's been voted in despite being one of the key proponents of a disastrous Brexit and having no real connection to Lincolnshire. As we've stood here and watched our US colleagues lose grants, lose fellowships, have to fire long-term staff and shut down research cohorts, there's no doubt we felt a bit safer and a bit more secure, knowing that our term of government will outlast Trump's. But we need to be careful. The same discontent that led to his re-election quite rightly continues to grow here. The media is being distracted with the same wedge issues that are everywhere in US media, and Reform continues to talk as friends of the working people whilst acting to enrich the wealthy and support extreme right-wing ideologies. Science has traditionally been seen as an apolitical career, that it's almost incumbent on us to stay away from the fray of politics and ideology and search for some shining truth. But given the manipulation of facts and the lobbying of special interests involved in current politics, I don't believe it's possible for us to stay outside the fray anymore. I'm not saying that scientists can do the work and change the country all alone. A lot of the work needed to do that is still out of our hands. The Labour government luckily still have years to turn around their fiscal policies and try to repair some of the damage that austerity has done to our critical institutions and infrastructure. Whether I'm hopeful that they're travelling in the right direction, however, is a conference chat to be had after at least one glass of wine. What I'd like to focus on today is the things that we can do now to protect the organisations we believe in, to help people view us as part of their communities and not as part of an unreachable elite, and to build a research endeavour that everyone in the country wants to protect. The first thing we all need to do is vote. This one should be obvious, but with turnout hovering around 30 to 35% in these local elections, it's clear that it needs to be said. As scientists, we tend to move around a lot. Make sure that your electoral register information is up to date and do something about it if it's not. If you move abroad, I strongly recommend nominating a proxy vote, having failed to receive a postal vote in time to return it on numerous occasions. Everything you need to do to check your voting details can be found on the UK Government Register to Vote page. Point number 2 is to partake in research engagement all the time, everywhere. Research engagement is one of the most valuable and luckily most enjoyable parts of a career as a researcher. I'm not sure I'd ever met a research scientist before I started my undergraduate medical school interviews. I had no idea what one did, and thus it would have been really easy to hear that someone was studying Alzheimer's disease with sleepy flies and think that sounds like a silly waste of money. It's a crucial part of our job to reach out to non-scientists and talk about why we do what we do in the way that we do it and how that might ultimately lead to developments in treatments. Doing this successfully not only increases public confidence in research funding, but also goes some ways to humanize the scientist. If someone has watched you patiently spend 20 minutes trying to help their very enthusiastic 5-year-old make a mosquito out of pipe cleaners while having an informative conversation with them about dementia research, they're much more likely to see you as a real person who is motivated to solve a serious problem and thinking carefully about the way to do it. This may seem trivial, but it's really important. So volunteer for Pints of Science, Science in the Park, visiting care homes, schools and patient groups. And when you get there, don't overblow the science, because that leads to suggestion 3. 3 is that we can help people to understand uncertainty. One of the major divides between our politicians is the way that they communicate uncertainty. Labour seem to be handling this by always taking the worst possible outcome and communicating that as their baseline as they deal with an impossibly unstable global outlook. Reform do the opposite. Everything is crystal clear, black and white, is the fault of this thing or that thing, no grey areas whatsoever. Somewhere in the middle of this is the region we should be aiming for. But uncertainty is difficult, and probability can be easy to misconstrue. Luckily, scientists are used to thinking about uncertainty every day, and when we communicate with the public, we can get this across really well. Examples can be really important here. When talking about cognitive resilience in dementia, for example, and that amyloid pathology doesn't necessarily lead to memory problems, I use the example of smoking. We all accept at this point that smoking causes cancer, but not everyone who smokes develops the disease. Helping people understand uncertainty in accessible ways can go a huge distance towards combating Facebook misinformation and treat anyone who offers guaranteed solutions to complex problems with distrust. Point 4 is to get off the internet. Wherever possible, try to interact with people as much as you can in real life. While the internet can help to connect people, it also acts as an echo chamber, and discussions will rapidly get more polarized and more aggressive than they would face-to-face. I'm part of a local active transport group, and the Oxford LTN wars have made a lot of people very unhappy. We were very nervous to hold in-person public meetings because of the rhetoric online, but have universally found that when talking face-to-face, both sides of the argument care deeply about their communities and the effect of infrastructure changes on them. When you can look someone in the eye and give them significant time, it's easier to have level-headed conversations about solutions that are not laden with dog whistle statements, anger, and abuse. After all, you can see that scientists are also underpaid hard workers who love what we do, but also really wish that our childcare was more affordable and that we didn't have to spend hours on the phone at 8 a.m. on Monday morning to get a GP appointment for a condition that will probably turn out to be stress. Point 5 is to act local. Reform are using a model of gaining power that has been very successful in the USA. They begin with local issues and local politics and make big gains in local elections with poor turnout. This works very well here thanks to our first-past-the-post system. This way they become familiar to the electorate and can build to national elections from there. It's clear that the Lib Dems have been using these tactics in the South to recover from their post-coalition wipeout. So if you still have energy at the end of an exhausting day and want to do more politically, then there is significant evidence that acting locally is more effective in community building and achieving goals. If you don't want to join a local party, look for local mutual aid groups, environmental groups, and if nothing exists that you're interested in, you can set something up. It only takes 4 or 5 dedicated people to make local differences that can be meaningful to lots of people. I don't have a fixed political affiliation. I've voted 3 different colours since coming back to the UK, but I've helped deliver leaflets for an excellent local Lib Dem candidate and have worked with the local authority on road safety improvements around our local schools. If you have data analysis and visualization skills, these are always in demand, and our grant writing abilities can also be put to good use. This work is super rewarding, especially when you meet motivated people with similar beliefs that you get to stay friends with afterwards. My final suggestion is to co-design research. I've left this suggestion till last, as it's a little aside from the others, but it may be the most important point of all. If members of the public and our local communities help co-design our research, then they will help stand up for it when a doge might come for us. We already know that co-design helps build stronger, more diverse clinical cohorts that ask questions of greater interest to people affected by disease. There are lots of people thinking about how to build the same level of interaction into more basic biology studies, such as the ones that I do in my lab. We're holding an event in Oxford this summer with some of our wonderfully engaged local supporters to hear their opinions on co-designing molecular research, and I'll be sure to share the major outcomes from this meeting in a later blog post. So that's all my suggestions. The summary to all of this is that the more people feel involved in what we do, the more people see us as real people working for something we deeply believe in, the more they will shout if future governments try to shut us down. The UK is home to UK Biobank, to the COVID recovery trial, and to the still absolutely worth the hassle National Health Service. We can't afford to lose a generation of research and medical care in this country to a party that desperately seeks to mirror the devastation Trump is bringing to American science. We must do everything we can to stand up for it.
Thank you for listening. Join the Dementia Research bloggers and share your own views.